Welcome to Spoonful of Strength, a podcast for people with chronic illness and the ones who love them, where we talk all things chronic. Here's your host, Rachel and Tina.
Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Spoonful of Strength. This is Tina. Rachel is actually out having her shoulder surgery, which by the time this is airing, she will actually be back into the swing of things. Everything went fine. Very happy to report with that. So today I will be talking with Em all the way from Australia. She'll be joining me and sharing her journey through her MS diagnosis and the treatments that she has received that has helped her with her journey. Welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us on Spoonful of Strength today, all the way from Australia.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I saw your little clip on Instagram talking about your journey, your diagnosis very briefly. So tell us a little bit. It said you were diagnosed with MS at 19, correct?
Correct.
And that seems a little bit unusual to be like your diagnosis was very quickly.
Very
we've
quick,
talked to
yeah.
a few compared to some of the other people that just takes forever. So can you walk us through a little bit of that? You know, what happened, what sent you down there, how that whole diagnosis came about?
Yeah, of course. So like you said, I was 19. I just moved out of home. All I wanted to do was party and drink and stay out late. And, you know, like all 19-year-olds moving out of home to go to, you guys call it college, we call it university, party time. I noticed the left side of my body started going slowly numb in my hand and my tummy. And so I went to the doctor and he told me I just pinched a nerve in my neck and to, you know, go home, sleep it off, you'll get better. 2 days later, it had gotten worse. It had spread further down my leg. I was limping and I was like, no, this isn't right. So I went to a different doctor and he said, you've had a stroke. I'm calling an ambulance. Put me in an ambulance and sent me to the hospital where I spent 2 weeks being poked and prodded and lumbar puncture, which I think you guys called spinal tap, MRI, blood work, all the tests. Got really lucky that there was a brilliant neurologist on duty at the hospital and he saw what was happening straight away. So I left that hospital after 2 weeks with a diagnosis of MS.
Do you feel that it was because they initially suspected that it was a stroke that they did more testing to come to that diagnosis versus, you know, some of the other people that just started seeing symptoms, but they suspected maybe MS, but they're like, no, you need, like, I know at least in the States, they're like, you need so many relapses before we'll even start doing that type of testing.
Yeah, so because you're right, because they thought it was a stroke, it was like straight in MRI, this test, that test. There were a couple of lesions on my brain, and I think you maybe need 7 or 8 to be officially diagnosed with MS. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, the neuro knew what was going on and sent me to a specialist once I left, and he ran a bunch of other tests and ended up getting the diagnosis.
Okay. And so what was your thought process with that diagnosis?
I ignored it. I, looking back, was in massive denial. I just went on with life as usual. In hospital, they'd given me a big dose of steroids, so the numbness had subsided. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm just going to get on with my normal life. I went back to full-time work. I went back to partying 4 nights a week. And it wasn't until maybe 5 years later when I kind of put 2 and 2 together and realized that workplace stresses were triggering my relapses, that I should probably do something about it.
What type of work were you doing at that time?
I was a corporate event coordinator, so I was running big conferences and all the stresses and the pressures that come with those.
Yeah, I can see that would be a pretty stressful position. for sure. What did you end up moving into? Did you take a little break and try to decide, or?
I I'd always been interested in nutrition and holistic health and that kind of side of things. So yeah, I did a bit of research and found that I wanted to go back to university and study nutrition and public health. So that's what I did. I quit the corporate world, went to Bali for a couple of weeks, thought about my life, applied for college, and went and got myself a job in a bar and went back to study dietetics and public health.
Awesome. Do you enjoying that?
I do. It's much more rewarding. It's much more flexible. It feels like it means something as opposed to just organizing big corporate events where it just seems quite pointless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Made you feel like there was more purpose
Yeah, and
with
a
what
lot
you're
of the
doing.
things that I learned, I took on board for my healing and health journey as well. So yeah, it was a great thing, a great decision. I guess looking back, the 5 years of denial of this disease kind of worked in my benefit, because when I came out of the denial, I was old enough to be like, okay, you need to get out of this corporate world because it's not doing you and your health any favors.
Do you feel like if you had not initially denied it and kind of accepted that diagnosis, that you may have stayed in that corporate world a little bit longer?
Unsure. I had an amazing boss. I had a really supportive boss. She was like a mother to me, as someone who just moved out of home, moved 8 hours away from my family. She was amazing. She was supportive. She knew what was going on the whole time. And
Mm-hmm.
her daughter also had MS. So she was like super supportive. And I think she probably gave me the push I needed to realize that it was this job that was causing the stress, that was maybe causing relapses. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, she kind of gave me the push I needed to leave.
Well, that's great. That's great to
We
have
are still in touch to
a
this day.
boss that, yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I have a few jobs that I have left, and it's still very close to my
Yeah,
boss there. So it's a special relationship when you have that.
100%. She
Yeah.
came to my 21st birthday. She came to my 30th birthday. My family have all met her. She's a huge part of my life still to this day.
Yeah, part of your family. She's family at this point
Essentially, yeah.
in time. Yeah. How are you doing now as far as the progression of the MS?
Yeah, so whether it was luck, whether it was a good medical team, or whether it was all the holistic healing things I put in place, after my first 8 years with the disease, I haven't had a relapse since. So I've been living with MS for nearly 18 years. And I think, yeah, after my first 8 years with this disease, I didn't have another relapse. Probably a couple of years ago, I noticed my legs starting to weaken no matter what I did. Pretty good with, exercise and making sure I'm moving and walking. But no matter how much strength training I did, I noticed my legs weakening and I panicked. And I mean, I've got a 5-year-old son, so the idea of not being able to move my body was just devastating and petrifying for me. So I went away and did a bit of research and spoke to a couple of the other girls on our Instagram community and decided to look into getting HSCT, or a stem cell transplant. So I went to my neurologist and said, I'm progressing, even though I'm on these amazing drugs. I was on Kesimpta at the time. And he said, oh, you're not sick enough to get HSCT. I was, I think, only like a 3 on the EDSS score. So I was quite mobile and could get on with life as normal, whatever normal is.
Right.
And then I asked him again another 6 months later, like, come on, mate, I think I need to get a stem cell transplant, because what I'm looking at the research, this seems to be the best thing that I can do for my body to potentially halt any further progression. And I just got super lucky that in that 6-month gap, the hospital that he worked for had started a trial for HSCT for MS. And some research had come out that the earlier you do it, the more effective it is. So he asked me if I'd want to be on his trial. I jumped at the opportunity. I had my transplant October last year, and here I am, touch wood. I have not taken an MS drug since April last year, so that is 15 months ago, and I have not progressed any further. So I am petrified to say it out loud, but I think that the transplant has worked.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, is this this is the first that I didn't even realize that a stem cell transplant is an option for some with MS. And is that only because I know there's different strains, I guess, or
Yeah.
of MS, or so is that something, do you know, is it something that quite a few people may be eligible for, or is it very specifically your type?
Yeah.
Or
Look, so a lot more countries are coming on board with it. A lot more research has come out. The research thus far is saying that it is more effective for people with relapsing remitting MS, and that it is more effective the earlier you get it done. Whereas 5 years ago, it was, no, this is only a treatment for those that are really sick and progressing rapidly. It's hard to get. It's hard to access this treatment. I was only able to get it in Australia under a trial. Luck of the draw that my neurologist was running the trial. I know that people in the States pay a lot of money to go to Mexico to get it done, and that Russia was previously an option to get it done before they started throwing bombs at other countries. I don't think it's really safe to go to anymore. But yeah, I have spoken to a lot of different people in the MS community who have done it, and who are considering doing it. It is becoming more and more mainstream in the MS community. The conspiracy theorists amongst us say that mainstream medicine don't want it to become a common treatment because it does stop the need for further medication use. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here.
I think that that's something that quite a few people have that thought process, and with different illnesses, it's if we have the ability to, and the hesitation to embrace holistic modalities in addition to traditional, a lot of doctors try to push you away from that, and I always kind of wonder if that's because if it works, then you're not going to be going to see them anymore. So but there's a pair, and I can definitely see where some people that where it's easy to go into that conspiracy theory thought process, but it's
myself personally am of the belief that Western medicine and holistic health and holistic healing should go hand in hand. I'm not an either or person. I think they both work really well together.
Ever since my cancer diagnosis in 2018, I've definitely been more like that pairing of, and I had my oncologist was great with, as soon as I started talking about, okay, I want to get my medical marijuana card because I read, I've read that this help, this RSO helps, or, I want to start working with a naturopath. And as soon as I mentioned who I was going to see, she's like, oh yeah, we send my breast cancer patients there all the time.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, I wish that was information that had been told to me. Like, it's like, they're fine if you bring it up, but they're
not going to bring it up off their own back.
They don't,
no.
They don't bring it up. Or at least in my experience, the ones that I have dealt with don't bring that up.
No, it's few and far between that you find a Western medical doctor who's going to suggest holistic health in any form.
Right. Yeah.
Sadly.
What type of holistic modalities have you found help you the most?
Look, it's really boring, but moving my body every day, eating fresh, local, whole foods seem to be the most effective. Mindfulness, it's not having to sit and meditate for an hour a day, but it's taking 5 minutes for yourself to sit in silence. Honestly, nothing exciting. I'm open to anything and everything, and I've tried, naturopaths and Reiki healing and marijuana, but it's the simple, boring things that have worked for me.
Right. No, nothing that's like awe-inspiring or
Oh no, look, I
Uh,
could rattle off a list of my favorite supplements and their brands and all that
yeah.
stuff.
Oh
But
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't need to do that.
Nah, but yeah, it's different for everybody as far as, when it comes to
Exactly.
supplements and things. It's
Yeah.
very important definitely important to talk over with your doctor or a naturopath or something that gets you on that right path of my
100%.
naturopath was fantastic with, okay, what she had me taking during chemotherapy versus she switched things up after my surgery and then while I was on immunotherapy, like she was constantly adjusting based
Yeah.
on what I was going through.
It's personalization, right? There is no one size fits all approach that works for everyone,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah. I do like that you practice mindfulness because that's a big one for me too. Is in fact, we just did an episode on mindfulness. It has not aired yet. But,
I was going to say, I haven't heard that one.
when we're talking now, like it will have aired by the time by the time we have you up, I believe. I have to look
Amazing. I'll keep an eye out for
but
it.
yeah, so I talked a whole episode on mindfulness and meditation, which there's a difference between the two, and the difference between the two and how they can they work together, but also you don't have to carve out a half an hour a day or an hour a day to meditate in order to get the benefits of being mindful.
100% agree. Yeah. I really struggle with sitting and meditating for anything longer than 10 minutes. So I'm always finding different ways to become mindful and sit in stillness and ground myself.
We thought we'd take a brief pause in our podcast to enjoy what I call a mini mindful moment. Now, mindfulness is, if you're not familiar with the concept, that is the practice of just being present in this particular moment in time. We're not thinking about things that have happened in the past. We're not thinking of things that are coming up. We're simply in this here and now. So I encourage you to join us on a little mindful moment here as I guide you through how to quiet your mind. One of my favorite techniques of that is simply become focused on my breath. So if you settle in, close your eyes, try to quiet your mind, and simply focus on taking a nice deep breath in through your nose, feeling it all the way down from your diaphragm all the way up, and hold it. And then release that breath through the mouth. One big, long breath out. And there should be no other thoughts going through your mind. Just simply focus on breathing in. Nice deep breath in through the nose. And hold it. And deep breath out through your mouth, releasing all that tension in your body, feeling yourself connected to nothing more than your body and your mind. You hear any outside noises, just simply push them away. Only concentrate on that breath. Deep breath in, hold it, and a nice long breath out. And if you find your mind starting to wander, bring it back to focusing on nothing more than the process of those deep breath in all the way through the very bottom of your pit of your stomach, all the way up into your lungs. Nice and deep breath, and hold it. And a nice deep breath out. simply quieting your mind and focusing only on those nice deep breaths in and a long breath out. And then take just a couple seconds, a few more breaths on your own. I won't guide you through these. If you find your mind starting to wander, just bring it right back to just focusing on the breath and nothing more. Give you a couple seconds to do a few deep breaths. And on your last exhale, nice deep exhale, and open your eyes and come back to the present moment and join us back on the remainder of our podcast. What do you find right now is your biggest challenges?
Oof. So as part of the transplant, you get given chemotherapy, and I'm so grateful to have got this treatment, but honestly, the thing that I'm struggling with most at the moment is that the chemo has put me into menopause, and I've put on quite a lot of weight, and it made my hair fall out, and now my hair's short, and I wouldn't call it an identity crisis, but I'm really struggling at the moment. I've always had long blonde hair. I've always been really skinny, and it's so stupid and first world problems. But honestly, that's what I'm struggling with at the moment, my sense of identity.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. I mean, I know you said, oh, it just seems stupid, but it's not, because it's still a big change, and it's coming about earlier than it should be in your life because of because of the MS and the treatments that you've gone through. So I understand the difficulty of, I don't know, we always call it the figuring out the new normal.
That's it.
Not just figuring it out, but accepting the new normal can be difficult.
Yeah. So I've gone back to therapy, and I'm working with a therapist on self-acceptance, and it's been cool. I haven't seen a therapist for about probably 10, 15 years, so it's been really great working with one again.
Mm-hmm. That's great. It's good though. What do you find is the most fulfilling part of your life right now?
Oh, my little boy, Freddie, he's 5. He's off to big school next year, and he is
is he excited about going?
With mummy. He's beautiful. It's been a weird year for him with me having my transplant and having to go to hospital for 3 weeks to get that done, and losing my hair, and he's just handled it like a little champion.
That's so sweet. Is he excited about going to big school next year?
He's so excited.
Now you all you do year-round schools, right? With just a few week, longer vacations. So compared to here in the States, most of us have like the summers off.
Yeah.
Completely.
No, we kind of split it into 4 terms and have little holidays in between.
Mm-hmm. That makes it. I always felt like that would be easier. In my opinion, I think I would like that better. Not that we have any kids in school anymore, but
it just makes it really difficult if you've got a job and you've got your kids home for holidays, especially if they are
2
younger.
months, 3 months. It's a long summer. Yeah. It's much easier to probably manage childcare for a couple weeks at a pop versus 2.5 months at a pop.
We'll see how we go next year. At the moment, he's in daycare 5 days a week, which is a dream.
Okay. Now, do you work from home, or do you go into an office?
I do work from home. I have realized over my years of living with chronic illness that the traditional 9-to-5 workplace is not for me. stopped working for about 8 months during and after my transplant to get that done and to heal. I think it was maybe about January that I thought, oh, feeling good, I should probably go back to work. And yeah, I just jumped online and saw what was out. And I mean, I've got my own business as well. I work as an MS coach, but at the moment that's only bringing in a part-time income. And so I wanted another role, and I jumped online and I saw this role doing marketing for a health agency, like a local health agency, work from home, flexible, the dream. And I ended up getting it. So yeah, now I work from home altogether, part-time for myself and part-time for this job. And I cannot fault the flexibility, but I do need to be really careful not to spend too much time sitting and staring at a screen.
Yeah, it's definitely, I imagine it's important to get up and move your body. And so that traditional 9 to 5 sitting at the desk in front of a computer screen all day is not necessarily conducive to what your body needs.
No, it's not. And I mean, when I was in that world, I was lucky that I've always had supportive bosses who allowed me to take time off for treatment and medical appointments. And a lot of people aren't that lucky, and it's a really, really tough situation to be in, especially if you're newly diagnosed and you're going to all these appointments and scans and tests, and maybe you don't want to explain it to your employer and you're having to take all this time off. It's just, yeah, it's not conducive to life with chronic illness, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is tough. What advice do you have those that are newly diagnosed?
Yeah, look, what I wish I knew when I was diagnosed, if you aren't comfortable with your neurologist or your specialist, if you not feel like you're getting the answers you want from them, please go and get a second opinion. Your health is much more important than staying on the right side of a doctor who probably won't think about you once you walk out of his office. The other thing is listen to your body, especially if your diagnosis is MS or chronic fatigue or something else that comes with that heavy pressure of fatigue. Prioritize rest, prioritize sleep, and listen to your body. They're probably the two main things.
It's great advice. And I love, that's one thing that a lot of our guests have mentioned is if you're not married to your first doctor that you see,
correct,
to try to, that you're to get those answers. And if you're not getting the answers that if your gut is telling you that that's not the right answer, then go find somewhere else.
Go find someone else
and get that other opinion.
And I know that that's easier said than done with wait lists and accessibility and costs, but your health is the most important thing you have.
Absolutely. You have to prioritize. Nobody's going to prioritize you more than you.
Correct. Yeah. Love that.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit. You mentioned in the little clip that I saw on your Instagram, you mentioned something with your eye, an optic.
Yeah. So
situation.
the second relapse I had, the second MS relapse I had, which was about a year after my first, so it would have been about 20. My right eye just stopped working. I just couldn't see out of my right eye, and I now know that that is a really common MS symptom, and it's quite often people's first MS symptoms. But I just remember standing in this corporate job in this office, not being able to see out of one eye, and just getting in the elevator of that city building and just like crying as the elevator went down to the bottom floor. Yeah, it was petrifying. But again, modern medicine, they sent me to hospital, pumped me full of steroids, and within a day or two, my eyesight was back. But it was so scary.
I'm sure. Now, did you initially think that it was related to your MS, or did you think something completely different was going on at that point?
I don't remember, but I probably did assume that it was something to do with the MS, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you haven't, that was just the one time, you have not had any issues with that?
No, I've not had any issues with my eyes since then, thank goodness, because apart from loss of mobility, losing your eyesight is one of the scariest symptoms of MS for sure.
Yeah, I just can't imagine. I have a lazy eye. My left eye, I don't have very good vision in there, so I
Yeah.
just can't imagine. Like if that happened to my right eye, I wouldn't know what to do because
Well, yeah, I
I
didn't
can't
know. I
see
didn't know
well
what
out
to
of my
do.
left eye. So that had to be pretty scary. Uh, what do you, when you look for towards your future, you think it's looking now that you've had that stem cell
Yeah.
transplant and you seem to be doing really well for that. Do you feel that you're looking forward to the future a bit more than you were before that stem cell transplant?
100%. 100%. And I mean, the whole reason that I got it was my son, really. He's an active, growing boy, and I want to be able to play with him and run around with him and do all the things with him that he wants me to do, that he expects his mother to be able to do. And it's just a massive weight off my shoulders to think that maybe that is my reality now. And I'm always scared to say it out loud because they don't call the transplant a success until 24 months of unchanged MRI and no progression. And I'm sitting at about 9 months now. So I always get scared to say it worked. But it looks like it's heading in the right direction.
It is. That's already been 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sounding promising.
It is sounding promising. Yes. Yes.
Have you, is there any other follow-up or any other, any restrictions after going through the transplant or,
Yeah. So essentially, I'm not sure how much you know about transplant, but I'll just talk a brief overview of it. Essentially what they do is they blast you with chemo to kill your immune system and then put stem cells in to grow you a new immune system that hopefully doesn't attack the myelin sheath around your brain and spinal cord. So the main thing post-transplant is you don't have an immune system. You have a baby immune system that's just growing, and you wrap yourself in cotton wool and pretty much don't leave the house. And I wore a mask at home around Freddie for the first couple of weeks after I got back, just because I didn't want to catch any of those daycare germs.
right.
As it was for me, as I was part of a trial that includes 24 months of follow-up. So there's been lots of going back to the hospital and blood tests and that kind of thing. And the hospital where I got my transplant done is it's about a 9-hour drive away. So I would fly down there most of the time. But post-transplant, when I had no immune system, it's pretty petrifying getting on a plane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even when I'm healthy, I almost always end up sick after flying.
Yeah,
I almost always end up with a cold. Only time I didn't, I think, was when we were flying when masks were still required. And that's the only time I've never gotten sick flying.
Yeah.
So I can see how that can be a little nerve-wracking because
100%.
for you, like for us, it's like, oh, I've got a cold. This is annoying. Even the summer colds that are awful, which I keep thinking, I forgot this is not summer. Like we're up here dying and you're down there in nice cold weather probably right now.
Yeah, I know.
Cool weather.
It's, where I live in Australia the weather is likened to that of Florida.
Oh, okay. Okay. So pretty mild winter, or yeah.
It's winter, but I'm just wearing pants and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I guess I would imagine just the thought of even just a simple cold can be terrifying for you right now.
When I was in the hospital, they keep you pretty isolated. You're isolated to your room. All the medical staff that come in are like gowns and masks, and they keep it as clean and sanitized as possible. But I hated the hospital food. So I was ordering, I don't know if you guys have Uber Eats over there. I was ordering, ordering Uber Eats to my room. And I think on one of the Uber Eats came in some germs and I ended up with a cold day 2, and I've never been so sick. I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
been so sick. Like fevers and vomiting and
Oh my
diarrhea and like
gosh.
like I was so sick.
Right.
Idiot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's, you're like, but that good food might have been worth it. No, no.
I know.
You're like, well,
Uh,
maybe it wasn't so bad.
no.
We've all of us that have had to deal with hospital food would probably would have been doing the same thing that you were doing.
Yeah, like I'd already been in there, I think 5 nights by that stage, and I was just like, I cannot eat any more of this crap. Like I've had chemo and I'm so lucky that I'm hungry and I've got an appetite, but I don't want to eat any of this food.
Right. Now, will you always be very susceptible, or over time, the longer you've gone out of the transplant, that immune system starts building itself back up?
Yeah, so my immune blood cells are already showing that my immune system is pretty much back to normal people level. So it's amazing. It's like, because when I was on all the MS medications, I mean, they make you immunosuppressed. So I've always had a shoddy immune system, and I've always easily gotten sick. I had chest infections after chest infections, and now I have this immune system that should function like a normal person's immune system.
hmm
Yeah, I really should probably think about that and be more grateful for that more often.
Yeah, I'm not getting sick as often. And sometimes you don't even think about that when you go through, until somebody says, "Hey, do you notice that you're not getting sick as often with that?" And then you're like, "Oh, you know what? I have been noticing that."
Yeah, like we're in the middle of winter over here, as we just said, and I haven't had anything. I haven't had a cold. I haven't had a cough. Now I've said it out loud. Freddie will probably breathe some germs on me this afternoon when he gets home. But
Just spray
yeah,
him
like
down with some Lysol when he walks through the door.
oh dear.
Uh,
Did you know Spoonful of Strength is not just a podcast? We have an Instagram page called Spoonful of Strength where you can see clips of our upcoming episodes, learn about different illnesses, and we share other people's stories. We also have an Etsy shop where you can shop for clothing such as t-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies. You can find candles and mugs and tumblers and blankets. You can find it all. We support all chronic illnesses, and the great thing is, if you find a t-shirt in our shop for multiple sclerosis, we can change that for lupus or Ehlers-Danlos or any other illness that you need. Everything is customizable in our shop. Use the code podcast for 20% off your entire order.
how did Freddie do with you being in the hospital for as long as you were and away from mom?
That's a really good question. It ended up being a wild couple of months. September, October last year. I was going in for transplant. My partner's mum got diagnosed with breast cancer. She's okay now. My dad was suffering from neuralgia, like pain in his throat. So he was struggling to swallow and eat and talk. And so all of these big medical things were happening at once. My dad had to go in for brain surgery the same week that I got my transplant. My partner's mother had to go in for mastectomy the same week I was having my transplant. So we all needed to be around these hospitals in Sydney at the same time. So we hired a holiday house for a couple of weeks and kind of turned it into a holiday so that Freddie would just think of it as a holiday. So he had his grandparents and his cousins and all of his family coming to hang out with him, which he wouldn't normally get. So he thought the whole thing was fun.
Right. Oh, that's good. That was a fantastic way, I think, to handle that and make it a little bit less traumatic.
It was such a good idea.
For somebody that's so young that doesn't necessarily understand everything that was
Doesn't
going on.
understand. And the whole, I've always had really long hair, so we included him. Like I cut my hair off before I went into my transplant, and he helped cut the hair, and we've just tried to include him in everything. And, like mummy's going to get some medicine that makes her hair fall out so that she can run around with you forevermore kind of thing.
Mhm.
So he
Yeah.
kind of thinks of it like that.
Yeah. So he understood why you were going through what
He did.
you were
Yeah,
doing
he
it for
did
him.
to a point. As much as he was 4 then, as much as a 4-year-old can, but yeah.
Yeah, I think kids, they're pretty resilient, and they're
100%.
they pick up on things more than you realize
Oh,
too, I think. Yeah.
absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. Don't say anything around a 5-year-old boy that you don't want repeated to someone else.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, how is your support system? Do you feel like you have a really solid, good support system there?
I do. I have an amazing support system. My partner also lives with an autoimmune disease, so we really have a deep understanding of when each other needs to rest and what we need from each other. So that's really helpful. My family, while they live far away, are very supportive and always happy to drop anything and get on a plane and come up here if they need. I was living with my grandparents when I got diagnosed, so I was really lucky to have their support. And now we live up here away from our family. We've created this really brilliant support network of other families that have kids around the same age, and we all just look out for each other. So yeah, I've been really lucky with that.
Is it difficult to be in a partnership where both of you are trying to manage a chronic illness?
Yes, it is. But I think the benefits outweigh the negatives because we both understand what the other is going through, and we both prioritize our health and support each other in doing that. It was really tough when Declan, my partner, got diagnosed. So he has a condition called myasthenia gravis, which, like MS, can affect any part of your body, but it's the muscles that it affects. So his initial symptom was that he lost his eyesight because the muscles behind his eyes stopped working. So that was petrifying. And then he had a second relapse when Freddie was only 6 weeks old. So he ended up in hospital, and I was solo parenting this 6-week-old baby, and that was not fun. But on the whole, yeah, look, it's just really great to have the support of someone that understands what I'm going through.
It's almost, I feel like in some relationships, not like I have a great support
Amazing.
system. My fiance is fantastic, but I could almost see where it would be easier to feel like you're okay to prioritize yourself when you're with somebody that also has to prioritize themselves.
Yeah. Look,
If that
it doesn't
makes sense.
come it comes with a pickup, but no, we definitely have a greater understanding of what the other is going through for sure.
So I already asked you advice for those that are newly diagnosed, but just in general, what advice do you have for people in general that with any chronic illness, as far as, I guess, acceptance and the importance of prioritizing you themselves?
Yeah, look, it'd be the same 2 pieces of advice that I give newly diagnosed people of finding a doctor that you agree with, that you gel with, getting a second opinion if you need, and prioritizing your health. But it's also finding your community. I avoided social media for so long because I thought it was this gross, yucky place full of bullies and trolls, and it was fake and vapid. But once I got on there and started connecting with other people with chronic illness and other people with MS, just found this amazing community of other women and other men that are going through something similar. And you can be like, hey, has this ever happened to you? Hey, what did you do when this happened? And people checking in on you. And it's just like this beautiful online community of other people going through similar things.
I've noticed that with one of my favorite, I love not love, because it's awful that they're joining the group, but my specific type of cancer, I'm involved in a Facebook group, and people will come in newly diagnosed. And what I had was just, it's not a good outcome generally. And they're like, oh, my oncologist told me blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, let me tell you, I was given a 14% chance in 2018 to live 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I said, so don't listen. Don't you listen to what they say, like,
well, yeah, right. This is what I
keep
like
with
to
this
say.
support system and that mindset of, it's just so important with that positive mindset too. So it's
Mindset is
almost
so
fulfilling
important.
to be able to see these people that are coming in petrified because they just got this MS diagnosis or this cancer diagnosis, or, name any other type of chronic illness diagnosis. And it's humbling to be that bright beacon.
Yep. Yeah. So I quite often jump on those Facebook pages. There's a lot of MS support Facebook pages, and I quite often get messages in my Instagram inbox from people that are newly diagnosed. And I know that MS affects everyone differently, but I like to say to everyone, like, I've been living with this disease for nearly 18 years. I'm still walking, I'm still working, and I'm raising a family. It is not a death sentence, and it does not have to be the end of your life.
Yeah.
Because I wish someone said that to me.
I know. Yeah. You're putting out there the support that you were, or, that I guess that hope that you wish that you kind of needed at that.
Yeah.
At that, 19,
but like
18
being
years.
diagnosed nearly 18 years ago, I think Facebook maybe had just launched, but I don't think any of the other social media platforms existed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, back then it was more if you wanted a support group, you had to get out and go to a support group meeting.
Yeah.
And
it would go to the hospital.
but then you're not feeling, you're not feeling well. B, you're immunocompromised. So you shouldn't be going out and about. So I definitely feel that there's so many benefits of the connections you can make and the support you can find via social media.
Yep.
And speaking of which, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Where can all of our listeners follow you?
Yeah, so I am active on Instagram. Namely, you can find me at m.westy, em.westy, Westy.
Anything else before we all say goodbye that you would like to share with everybody?
Yeah, look, my inbox is always open. If you've got any questions or any concerns about living with chronic illness or living with MS specifically, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's the whole reason I've started my Instagram account, and that I'm on there every day. It's to connect with people like you and to help you as much as I can. And thank you, Tina, for having me.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you. What a great interview. She was such a bubbly person. I really, really enjoyed meeting her and getting to know her and hearing about the different, some slightly different approaches on MS in other countries and the treatment options compared to what is offered here in the United States. So I really appreciate having her here on our episode. Tune in on Tuesday next week. We're getting close to wrapping up our very first season of Spoonful of Strength podcast. And so next week, and we are actually going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to have Tuesday and Thursday both be guest episodes. We've been getting so many requests, which we are thrilled about, from people wanting to join our podcasts and share their journey and their stories. So we decided that what a great way to embrace some and get some more in there by airing it on Tuesday and Thursday with our guests. So on Tuesday, we have Kate joining us from California, and she is going to be talking to us about her syndrome that she has is called MMS, which is miserable malalignment syndrome. A very interesting syndrome out there. She was only 27 when she was first diagnosed. Lots of surgeries. Just an amazing story that just once again shows the strength and perseverance that so many of us with chronic illness have had to develop in our life. So please join us on Tuesday for that interview. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, amazing weekend.